First of all, thank you very much for being here. It's a pleasure meeting you guys all. My name is Abdullah Khan, and I own a company called Bidding Enterprise. We specialize in bidding, estimating, takeoffs, right? But we are not like any other estimating company that work as a third-party estimating company that you probably receive a lot of emails from. The topic that we are going to cover today is strategies to win more bids, right? That's a topic that's close to everyone's heart because, when you are bidding a job, you want to win that job, but you don't win every single job, right? So what do you need to do to increase your chances to win more projects, right? And one thing which I would like to start with is there's a book called Blue Ocean Strategy. It's an excellent book that everyone should read. It's a difficult book to read, but what it says is it opens your mind about how to approach competition. Right? We are so much fixated on there are so many different companies out there who are trying to get from the same set of projects and same everything that we do, they can do probably better than us, right? We started this company 5 years ago. They started 15 years ago, right? They have more money than us. They have better relationship with other people than us. So there are always things that we feel that other companies, other people have more than us, right? What this book shows you that there is always going to be a red ocean, right? There is always going to be too many sharks in that area, in that water, right? But you need to find your blue ocean within that red ocean. So this is exactly what we're gonna discuss today, right? There's no magic pill. There's no, magic wand and say, I'm gonna give you one liner and, next time you're gonna win every single project. That's not gonna happen, right? But I'm gonna explain few things that we have learned over the course of, last 9 years. We have estimated over 40,000 jobs, right? Anywhere from a small AD ramp repair to the largest building that we did was Twin Towers of Miami Coast, and each tower was like 75-story tall. Anything in between, multi-family, single family, warehouses, restaurants, schools, hospitals, we have the expertise to build the takeoffs for. Why should you listen to me? As that's a very good question. Maybe you shouldn't, but I built this company. I was myself and my brother. We were only two of us. Now I have a team of over 300 plus people work for me, with over 250 plus estimators, and they have different trade backgrounds, right? We train our people not in everything. We believe that the more you specialize, the better grip you have on that particular trade. Right. Bidding Enterprise, we work with many large, small contractors. Some of our customers are ENR 400. Some of the suppliers that we work with are builders, First Source, or Blue Links, and some big names. I'm probably not going to follow this presentation. This is for the sake of it, right? Okay, and I put few things together because I was supposed to have a presentation here. Before we start, I would like to have a little bit idea about the audience. I'm assuming that all of you guys are subcontractors, right? Anybody who's not a subcontractor here? All right, so what do you do?
More in engineering for manufacturing.
Okay, all right. And about you, sir?
I work for a consulting engineering firm, but we usually are consultants or consultants for public or private projects.
Okay, perfect, perfect. And you're also not a subcontractor?
Same as him.
Oh, so you guys are the same company. Okay, right. So what I would like you to do is, and this is the first time I'm actually trying it, a person told me that you can do that, is if you can scan this with your phone, right, there are going to be a few options, and if you can select some of those options. And the question was, what's the biggest bottleneck that you have when it comes to your estimating process? Let's see if it works. Okay. Okay. Somehow I have only one response, but I see that many people have done it. So, anyways, hey ho. There are many different reasons why estimating fail, right? One of the primary reason is, okay, now it's doing something. Okay, right? So the number one bottleneck in your estimating process for most people is not enough time in the day. All right, that makes sense. Supplier quotations, suppliers are very difficult to work with most of the times. They don't respond back in timely fashion. Proposal writing, preparing takeoffs, follow up with the customer. There are all valid reasons that can choke your estimating process. One thing which we should understand that there is no such thing as unlimited resources. There's never going to be a situation where you have too many estimators sitting and doing nothing, right? Because we all are running businesses, we are not running charity, and business is for profit, which means you have to utilize your available resources to its maximum and to get the maximum value out of those people. Resources can be people, equipment, time, everything. Right. Now the second thing was not enough hours in the day. I know that some of us may not like Elon Musk, especially what happened recently. But the brilliance of that person is he's not just running $1 billion company. He's running multiple $1 billion company, and somehow he seems to have a lot more time than us. Okay, so we all are born different in different circumstances, in different environment, with different opportunities. But there's one thing that's same for all of us. That's 24 hours in a day. What we make out of it, that uh, makes who we are right now. Okay, so when we say that not enough time in a day, is probably we need to look inner self to figure out is there something that we can delegate? Is there something that's not worth my time, right? Or how can I make the best use of my time? Right. Supplier quotations is a very different thing, but we're gonna get into it. Supplier, if you are talking to only one supplier, right? Now, the problem with that supplier is he's busy. He may not be able to get you a quotation in time, but you have to submit your estimate, right? So which means you have to create redundancy in the system, right? So we're going to touch base on it, and thank you very much for to say. There are a few challenges that I would like to mention here. Number one thing is if you're not bidding a job, you're not getting a job. Period. Right? So bidding or estimating is actually not an expense. It's an investment. It takes money to make money, right? So most people who look at bidding or estimating, hey, I spent $10,000 on a job or on a set of jobs, never got those, right? But imagine if you had not took time and spent that money to build that estimate, you wouldn't have gotten the job anyways, right? So the first thing is, if you're not bidding a job, you're not getting a job. But in order to bid a job, you need to have estimators. One way to do so is by estimating it yourself. But if you are the owner of your company, then I would argue that your time is worth a lot more than that of an estimator. It's the most important job probably in your company because it builds your sales pipeline. But you got to make sure that you have some sort of process in place that it's like an autopilot thing. Most of us, when we started our businesses, we were told that you can be your own boss and financial freedom and this and that, but nobody told us that you become a slave to your own business, right? Nobody told you that your business can become a glorified job, which means if you are sick, you don't have a business. If you're not building estimates, you don't have a pipeline to fill, right? If you're not running the jobs, nobody's running the jobs, right? So in order to bid a job, you need to have some estimating resources available. But in order to have estimating resources, the problem is today, if you decide to hire an estimator, it can take anywhere from 3 to 5 months to hire that estimator. And if that person is not a good fit, then what happens is you have to let him go, but it's already 30, 40, $50,000 spent on that guy, right? So what do you do about it? Now you're trying to compete with more established players. But at the same time, you have a resource problem, you have a time problem, you have a supplier problem. You don't even understand your own business sometimes that, uh, in order to pour a slab, right, I need 7 guys or 8 guys. That's the difference between winning or losing a job, right? If you are an electrical guy and how many home runs you have to run, right? That's the difference between having 900 man hours in the job versus 1,000 man hours in the job, right? So what we do when we are building an estimate, we're actually thinking about doing it as quickly as possible, right? And over the course of time, we build a lot of fat into our system without realizing, right? Tariffs are going to hit us, right? Okay, how much is the hit going to be? I don't know. Maybe I should add 5% contingency into it. Maybe I should add 2% for the splice factors. Maybe I should add 3% for the waste factor. And before you know it, you have a 15% fat built into your estimate. And now you feel, I keep sending my bids to my GC, never get the job. Why? Maybe the GC is giving or using my numbers and going to a different subcontractor and say, hey, if you match these numbers, the job is yours. Yes, sometimes GCs do that, right? But we got to understand that they are running a business as well. And they're not emotionally manipulated like I only want to work with ABC electrical contractor or XYZ concrete guy. They want to work with a professional company, right, at the lowest possible rate as possible, right, get the best possible service they can, right, which means they're not emotionally tied to subs. Yes, they would like to work with someone they have worked with in the past, okay? So building an amazing team is the way to go. But in order to build a team, there's going to be a process. One thing which I'm probably going to emphasize the most during this conversation is your relationship with your GC, right? Most people that I have worked with in the past, they keep on pumping estimates every single day and they say, okay, I'm gonna win maybe 1 out of 10 jobs. Okay, that's good enough for me, or 1 out of 7 jobs, right? But they never believe that they can win 1 out of 3 jobs or 1 out of 4 jobs, right? Because they understand there's a competitive market out there and every other contractor is after the same set of projects. Okay, fair enough. Okay, but a client relationship, when you or I think that a GC is probably giving a job to his preferred subcontractor, then why don't you become that preferred subcontractor? What is any other subcontractor doing that you are not, and they are their preferred subcontractor and you're not? And that part is relationship building. It's just like any other relationship. You are husband or wife, or you have a friend, or even your kids. If you're not investing your time and energies and attention into it, that relationship is not there. It's gone, right? So ultimately, it all comes down to growth. As long as we are moving in the right direction, right? Our this year is better than last year, or next year is going to be better than this year. This quarter is better than last year. As long as we're moving in the right direction, most people feel that they are good. As long as there is money in the bank at the end of the month, which means I made some money, so I'm okay. Right? Yes, this is one definition of growth, but growth is much more than that. Right? For example, you may hire a person and it costs you 10 grand a month. Right? It's gonna hit your numbers. but the same person is now going to bring you more money in 3 months time, 5 months time. Okay, so we need to look at our business in a very different manner. If we want to understand where your local market is, if you want to understand what different bidding strategies your competition is using, if you want to understand what exactly is expected of me from my general contractor, right? We have to sit down and start writing a lot of things. The ultimate goal is growth. Ultimate goal is we want to make sure that we make money, we have a better lifestyle, etc., etc., etc. Every person is wired differently. If you ask me, and then, I would say that uh, I would like to create something that's not there. That's why I operate, right? There are people who would like to operate because they want to have a better house or they want to go on vacations or whatever, right? Now, coming back to our topic, bidding cycle, pretty straightforward, right? You find a GC, okay, you ask him, please give me a job, right? You put together your numbers, you reach out to your suppliers to get material quotations and whatnot, right? You coordinate with the project engineer if you have some RFIs, some clarifications needed on the job. You put together labor estimates, etc., etc., write proposal documents, submit to the GC, and then hopefully we're gonna get the job, right? Now, there are within this whole process, there are a few things which are, key milestones, you can say, right? For example, first one, which GC to work for? We don't really pay a lot of attention to this question. Right? And I'll keep going back to our normal lives because that's how we can relate to things. When you are picking a partner for, you want to spend your entire life with that person, how do you pick a partner? Right. You want to see, what kind of person, he or she is, or what are the different behaviors, how he or she behaves in a restaurant to different people, etc., etc., right? This is also a partnership, right? You have to understand, you have to figure out who your ideal general contractor is, right? And I'm gonna have to this thing. Sorry about that. Okay, whatever, right? Then once you know who you want to work with, right? Then quantity takeoffs. This is the single biggest reason why you get a job and you don't make any money, right? There can be scope gaps, there can be addendas, there can be RFIs, there can be a lot of different information flying around, and then all of a sudden you have lost track of things and you missed an item in your bid, and it's a hard bid. You sign the contract and you get to work, and all of a sudden, all right, we didn't have waterproofing in it. Oh, how come? Right? Waterproofing needs to be there. Okay, so that's the second item that we need you to really focus on. And then cost estimating side, how do you calculate labor? How do you calculate overheads? How do you calculate taxes? How do you calculate insurances, right? And then post-bid follow-ups and relationship building. Okay, now I'm actually gonna dig deeper into it. Let's just take example. I am a new contractor, new subcontractor, just started off. Okay, I don't know anything about the market. Right. Usually, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna tap into my network, right? Because I was working as a PM or a superintendent for some other company, and now I think that I can do my own gig. Okay, so that's how usually we start. Right now, lack of market intelligence. I'm not a business person. I don't know how to vet an idea, right? So the first thing that I got to do is I got to figure out a radius within which I want to operate, right? And then it may seem like that I'm not even talking about bidding strategies, but it actually is. Right? I'm gonna find out, okay, who are the general contractors in this area, right? I want to work in commercial, right? So 50-mile radius, maybe a basic Google search, start listing down all the GCs. Okay, they usually have their projects mentioned or what kind of jobs they do, right? XYZ construction company. Mark is the main guy over there. That's the company's email address, that's the address, that's the phone number, right? And build a list, right? I'm probably gonna have a list of 50, 60, 100 GCs, right? If I ask you guys, do you know how many general contractors do you have, your potential customers within 50-mile radius? Anybody has that list or that kind of information? None. That's usually the case. We don't even know how big our market is. And then we say this is a red ocean. We don't even know how big the ocean is. It's an ocean. It's an abundance mindset. But in order to have abundance mindset, what you got to do is you got to list down all the GCs that you have, right? So that's one way of looking at things is, hey, I like a person, right? Or I know a person, but that person doesn't know me. I know Elon Musk, right? I can say, I know Elon Musk, right? And then someone say, oh, you know Elon Musk. But that doesn't mean that Elon Musk knows me, right? So now I know that there are 60 general contractors I can possibly work with, but they don't know me yet. They don't know me. So once I have the list, right, then what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pick up my phone and call those guys. Hey, I'm calling from ABC Electrical Company. You know, I own this company. I would love to work with you. Is it okay if I can stop by? Right? Try to book appointments. You're probably gonna get maybe 45 no's out of 50. That's okay. Nobody knows you, right? You don't have a history, you don't have any case study, and I probably don't even have uh, a brochure to share with those guys. I'm probably still using a Gmail email address, right? Okay, that's okay. Now 5 guys out of 50, 5 guys out of 100, they said, okay, why don't you come in, right? What do you have to say? Now I go in, maybe with a box of donuts, right? And now they know me as well. Okay, so next time when I pick up my phone again and I'm calling rest of the 45 guys and say, hey, you know, this is ABC Electrical. We spoke last week. I just wanted to make sure that you know you have a slot available. By the way, you know we also work with ABC Construction Company. So now you have built an indirect relationship. You're not really working with them, right? But now they know you. Okay, maybe they can pick up the phone and call them and say, do you know this guy? Yeah, I met him last week, right? So before you start doing anything, you have to do your groundwork, right? Because the ultimate goal is to build your bidding pipeline. If you're not receiving bid invitations from these GCs directly, then you know you don't have a chance. You don't stand a chance, right? Most people, what they do is they go to planhub.com or buildingconnected.com, and the drawings are already uploaded there, right? Yes, that's another way to you know approach these customers, but now your approach should not be to download those drawings and start putting together estimate. Your approach should be, hey, I was browsing through internet or PlanHub or whatever and found that you are looking for electrical contractors for your ABC job, right? Is it okay if I can bid? Is there a pre-qualification criteria? Do I have to fill out a form or something? Right? Now it's a different kind of cold call, right? But you will have to have the courage to make those calls. Now, out of those 50 general contractors that we enlisted initially, now we can further categorize them. These are the 5 guys who respond to us because probably their incumbent electrical contractor is not doing the right job and maybe they need assistance, right? But then here's a list of 10 who do not need us immediately, but they were open to the idea that we at least share an email with them, right? But the rest of these 35 guys, they are not responding at all. Okay? Now, within this red ocean, you have created your own small blue ocean. Okay, now you have to focus on those 5 guys first, and then on rest the 10 guys, and then the all rest 35 you can forget about them for now. Okay, so now we understand the market. We have created some visibility, 2 ways visibility, not just me knowing Elon Musk, right? Elon Musk knows me as well, right? Now, what happens is you start getting bid invitations. Okay, when you are getting bid invitations, just like you selected which GCs you want to work with, you need to figure out which projects do you want to go after, right? It can be a fantasy and say, okay, very first job that I get should be a $2 million job. I don't know if you are lucky enough, right? Maybe you pray to God more than I do, then I don't know, maybe that's possible. But reality is you're probably going to get a $20,000 job first, right? You're probably going to get some breadcrumbs before you get the bread, right? You should be okay with that, right? But you have to be selective. Okay, this GC says that, okay, give me your numbers for this and this and this and this, but you are a one-man show. You cannot build estimates for 5 jobs at the same time. Okay, you can pick up the phone. Can I bid on this one first and maybe this one later, right? But you need to understand, why are you bidding a job, right? Is that your specialty? Is this something that you are really good at? Or is this something that you feel that, when I get the job, I'm going to make a lot of money out of it? Or maybe that's a job where you can easily find resources and pull that job very quickly, right? Or maybe that can be a strategic reason. Maybe you are a more established subcontractor and you say, okay, I have a crew who's finishing his job from, I don't know, end of this month. Okay, so I need to find a job for them so that they stay busy. So that now it's a strategic reason, right? So now I need to go after this job because this job is going to start from 1st of July, right? But you need to find out, why are you bidding a job, right? So once you know your ideal customer, you know your ideal project, and you have ranked your GCs, you need to figure out who else is bidding that project. Yeah, we usually don't spend any time on it. All these things are common sense. Believe me, they are common sense. But just because we are running every single day and we don't have enough time to do this kind of stuff, we don't really think about it. Okay, so competition. Now, competition is going after the same GC, right? Is going after the same project. Okay, but there are 2 ways to look at it. A, your competition is not able to go after all the GCs just like you do. Okay, so the moment you pick up the phone and start calling GCs, now you started to figure out your market, that all right, these GCs, they need attention. These GCs, most people go after these guys. Okay, now you pick up the phone and call the GC and say, hey, I really want to work with you, and I want to assure you that we will give you priority, right? From now on, when you get stuck, you call me. From now on, if you have a problem with anything in life, you call me, right? When you need me, give me a call, I will be there. I'm 100% sure that, most of the guys that are sitting over here have never given this kind of feeling, this kind of love to their general contractors. They usually say that it's a professional relationship. But who says that professional relationship cannot be intimate, right? If you call a GC today, right, and if you have done 5 jobs for him, 2 jobs for him, and you say that from now on, I'm going to bid every single job that you have. I'm going to make sure that I will give you my best possible rates. I'm going to make sure that I will put my best possible people on your jobs, right? If you want me to work during the night, I'm going to work during the night. I'm 100% sure that, very soon you guys will be their preferred subcontractors. Why they like to work with certain people? Right? Why we like to hang out with certain people? Why would like to, stay with one person our entire life? Our wife or husband, because we find some sort of comfort in that relationship. When we are having this kind of relationship where there is no comfort, is more of a utility kind of relationship, as and when needed kind of relationship, then they have choices. They can go to A contractor or B contractor or C contractor. But when they know that this person is always going to be there for me, this company is always going to be there for me, because what's a company? Company is a group of people. There's no such thing as company. Right? If a company does not have anybody working in it, there is no company, which means we all are human, and we have to make use of the human side element of a company. Okay, that there is a thing called IQ. For decades, people were like, high IQ people are more intelligent, and low IQ people are just like me, dumb. But there's another thing called EQ. Anybody knows about EQ? Emotional quotient, right? IQ is intelligence quotient, all right? EQ is emotional quotient. Emotional quotient means that we have to understand not just our own feelings, but feelings of the other person and the feelings of the entire group, right? So right now, this group has a collective personality to it. Right? If you take one individual person, you will feel that that person may have temper problem. That person is not consistent enough. But there's another person who's very ambitious. There's another person who's very successful. But combined, total, this group has a collective personality. And what I see right now is that personality is to understand things, to acquire knowledge, to implement this thing. That's why we are having this conversation. Similarly, every company has a personality, right? That's probably the average of all the people working in that company. So that's why companies have vision statements and, I don't know, mission statements and core values and commitment values, etc., etc. Right? So now, in your bidding strategy, you have to take into account the human side of things. Okay, you have the list of GCs, you have the list of people working in that, you bought some donuts every time, you show up. And by the way, showing up is half of the battle. If you just show up in any argument, right, and you just sit there, you have won almost 50% of the time, right? People usually don't show up. Okay, what I've been telling you is to show up, but show up well dressed, show up with the right perfume, show up with the right material with you, not just show up, but show up better than everybody else. Okay, now so once you have all right, we were talking about the competition. All right, competition, again, if you guys do $1 million a year, right, think of a company that's 100 times bigger than you are. And there should be companies out there that are 100 times bigger, that do $100 million or $1 billion or $10 billion. Right? What did they do differently to become $100 million company? Right? Or there are companies out there who started off as maybe nothing, and now there are $10 million companies. We have to learn from those guys. Right? It's not like you go to your competition and say, hey, Mr. CEO, all good? Okay. Let me know the time, okay? Because I know this, okay. So how much time? 30 minutes we got, okay. Right? So it's not like you're gonna go and knock at the door and say, Mr. CEO, I know that you have a big company, I'm just starting out, could you please let me know what's the secret sauce? Nobody's gonna let you any secret sauce, right? But you can figure it out by keeping an open mind, right? When you're looking at your competition, You can find out about their buying practices, right? Who are they buying from, right? You can find out about their hiring practices. You can go online and search, which jobs they have open, right? And then read the job descriptions and find out that when they are asking for an estimator, right, they're looking for such and such and such skills. Right? I cannot hire an estimator right now, but it seems like these skills are important to be successful in this particular job. I am the owner of my company and I'm running as an estimator as well, right? So do I have these skill sets or not? If I don't, I first have to, somehow develop these skill sets in myself, right? So there are many different ways that you can kind of follow those guys to learn about them. For example, digital marketing, social media. Right? When you guys are here, you can easily take a picture, with Build Expo and say, "I'm here to learn about this thing." Right? Next time, when you have a GC searching your company, or if you want to work with a company, you tag them in your post. Next time, if he's online on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever, now your post is going to show up. All right. So now that I'm looking at this thing, this picture is extremely important. Market share. Right. Market share means there's a term called TAM, total available market, right? Which means you have to understand how many projects are coming up, how many projects are ongoing, right? Within the bigger grand scheme of things, how much is my portion? Like how much is electrical side of thing? How much is flooring? How much is painting, right? Because if you know that Houston market is booming, but how do you know Houston market is booming, right? You may not know that because I feel that there's a lot of construction happening out there, okay? But if you do a market research, and I'm not saying that you do it yourself, you go to ChatGPT and say, "Hey, ChatGPT, act as a market analyst and let me know how many jobs are open in Houston area compared to Denver area compared to Miami area, and let me know where the opportunities are," right? And then once you have a grip on that, it's a total $100 million market for me, right? Can I get 1% of it or not? Can I get 2% of it or not? Can I get 5% of it or not? Right? So when you say that I want to make $1 million a year, it sounds like a big number initially. I don't know how much money you make, but just taking 1 million as an example, $1 million revenue a year may sound like a big number for a smaller, contractor, but when you break it down, is $83,000 a month. Okay, it's much smaller than 1 million. Okay, $83,000 a month. Okay, my average project is, let's just say, $20,000. Okay, I'm only talking about 4 jobs a month, right? If I can increase my average project size to 40, we're talking about only 2 jobs a month. If I can increase it to 80, that's 1 job a month, right? Now all of a sudden $1 million looks more possible. Okay, $2 million. Now I need 2 jobs, $80,000 each. Okay, how many jobs are out there right now? You Google it, you go to Plant Hub, you go to Building Connected. There are 790 open jobs. Okay, all I'm talking about is maybe 1 job a month, right? So 1 job a month, which means 12 jobs a year. I have 780 open at this point in time. You do the math, 12 divided by 790, we're talking about fraction, right? Which means it's large enough market now to make that $1 million, to make that $10 million, to make $50 million, right? But you need to have an understanding of your market first, right? So that's why I'm spending so much time on this one slide, that we contractors do not spend any time on it, right? And we usually go the easy route where we go online, find a job, put together estimate, and there you go. Okay? Any questions so far, guys? Okay. Right, moving on, developing takeoffs and estimates. This is an acquired skill, right? Estimating is not something all of a sudden I wake up or I pick a guy off the street and call him an estimator. It's not going to happen, right? So what happens is 70% of your estimating time is actually spent on developing takeoffs, right? And when you rush the takeoffs, you usually miss items in it, and those items cost you money, right? Now, how can you improve your takeoffs? There are many different ways to improve the takeoffs, but these days we talk about AI. Right? There are tools out there who say, okay, just give us the drawings and we're gonna give you the quantities. Right? I run a company and I have tested almost every single AI tool out there at this point in time. AI tool right now is more of a co-pilot, not an autopilot, right? AI is like a child, which means when I have a toddler, I show him an apple and say, apple, right? Next day I say the same, apple, apple, apple. So now my kid is learning that this kind of thing that's round and red is an apple, right? AI is the same. You show AI 10,000 different apples, and now AI can predict that, okay, this is an apple. But what if you cut that apple in 4 pieces? It's still an apple, right? Your kid is still able to identify it as an apple because he can pick it up, he can smell it, he can put it in his mouth and say, okay, so this is an apple, okay, cut in 4 pieces, but AI cannot do that. Right? So AI has a lot of limitations, but at the same time, AI is brilliant, when you want to talk to it. For example, you can give it a set of drawings and say, hey, can you please find me wall tags W02? Can you please find me where do you have insulation in? What type of insulation is it? It's going to read all the drawings and it's going to give you the answers, right? Go to sheet number A203 and look at the detail number 4 on it, right? That's brilliant, okay? Now, uh, when you are preparing takeoffs, do you guys have, by the way, I've never asked you, what are your different trades? So what do you do? Uh, so HVAC, right? Ducts and, RTUs and anybody else, what do you guys do? Yeah? Sorry, say it again? Scaffolding, okay. How about you? Design, okay. Metal framing, okay. Oh, you do HVAC as well, okay. How about you, sir?
Cold storage construction.
Okay, perfect. So tell me, do you guys have a checklist that you follow? Let's for HVAC, the different types of ducts and different types of insulation for indoor and outdoor. Do you have a checklist that you follow for every single takeoffs that you prepare?
It just depends on if it's like installation or service.
Well, the service is different, right? But it's installation, then you can standardize this thing, right? Okay, so what you need to do is always start with specs. Most people don't start with specs. They start with plans, right? You have to start with specs. You have to find out, which CSI division, which products, that are related to your scope, okay? When you start with specs, then you move your way up to drawings. And for drawings, make sure that you open, let's say, a simple word pad, okay? And write down, okay, I received these drawings on this date, and this is the version of drawing, right? So that you can keep track of all the different addendas and 50% CD set and 90% CD sets, right? Most often than not, what happens is you receive a lot of emails, and then you end up working on a previous set, and then all of a sudden your bid is not accepted, right? Then once you have prepared the takeoffs, there are a few things that I would like to touch base here is building contingencies into your system, right? Contingencies is something, okay, my job is going to start in 6 months time, right? So I get a quotation from my supplier today, and he says that this quotation is valid for just 1 month. Okay, but my job is happening in 6 months' time. Okay, now you look historically and say over the course of last 6 months or last 1 year, the prices have gone up by 2%, right? I'm gonna put 3% in just in case. Okay, this is one way to do it, right? But then at the same time, what's going to happen is you're going to build some other fat factor in it. For example, if you have none of you guys are concrete guys, but concrete, you have rebar, right? Rebar comes in certain lengths, right? But if it's a 40-foot long footing and you have 20-foot long rebar pieces, you have to put them together, splice them together. Okay, but splice factor is usually put in a certain table on the drawings. Okay, if you're not reading the splice factor, then you say, okay, I'm gonna put 15% splice factor on it, but it's not 15%. Right? So one thing leads to another, to another, to another, and all of a sudden you have too much contingency built into the system. Okay, whereas let's just consider your competitor. Your competitor, he's thinking, okay, I am going to have one project manager run 2 jobs. Okay, can I do that? Okay, the jobs are all right within 10-mile radius. Okay, I think I can do that, which means all of a sudden when I'm bidding this job for supervision or for project management, I've split my cost into two. Okay, but you got to have a full-time project manager there. Right? Now your number is going to be higher than your competition. Right? Similarly, when he's pouring concrete, you can say, okay, maybe I can get this thing done using 7 guys, not 8 guys, right? And it is a 10 days job, right? So now I have saved 10 man days, right? 10 man days, let's say $50 an hour, 10 hours a day, 500 times. So I've just saved $5,000. I'm not saving $5,000. I'm making my bid a lot more competitive, right? So I'm not saying that you remove all the fat from your system, because the moment you remove all the fat from your system and there is one delay or one weather delay or your supplies didn't come on time and all of a sudden you are spending money from your pocket. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that be creative about it. So when I asked Antonio, right, do you have a checklist for building takeoffs for estimate? What I mean about that is you know about your business better than anybody else, which means you got to have a notepad where you say, okay, last time, or I'm running a job right now, right? It turns out this is not a 2-man job, it's a 1-man job, or it's not a 3-man job, it's a 2-man job, right? If I do it this way and that way, I can possibly save 10% of my labor hours over here. Or maybe if I do this and that. For example, I visited a mechanical actually guy's company the other day, and he took me to his storeroom, massive storeroom, and he had so many different couplings sitting over there. I said, why do you have all these couplings? Right? He said that previously what was happening, we were always getting a little bit more than what we needed. Okay, and our suppliers, they weren't really ready to take those back. Now, over the course of time, I have built this store, right? I have built an inventory system. Every time I have 2 additional couplings, I come and put in there. And then, after few months or after few, maybe a couple of years, I can actually run an entire job using this thing. So just imagine that using that small change in his working routine, he is now able to run a $200,000 job in 2 years' time. Right? Just being creative about how you approach things. Otherwise, it's very simple to lose track of things happening around you, or just be like anybody else. That's the worst thing that you can do, right? They say that you have to work smarter and not harder, and I would say that you have to work smarter and harder than everybody else. No, there's no such thing as free lunch. Right? Okay, so at the same time, you can take use of all the addendas, but I know that we have very limited time. List goes on, and I'm going to share these slides with you. And by the way, one of the reasons why we scanned your badges because I'm going to send you a step-by-step guide with some checklists in it that you can possibly use in your business to improve it. You will have to modify it. You will have to modify it to your own business, but I'm going to give you some sort of framework, right? But the list can be, drawing quality wasn't great, right? If your drawings are not detailed enough, what exactly are you going to do about it, right? You're going to make a lot of assumptions, but when you're making a lot of assumptions for your GC, it's not an apples to apples comparison anymore. All right, so what do you do about it? Then you go back to your relationship where you say, hey, I submitted you my numbers. I would like to come in and have a face-to-face meeting with you, right? So that's how everything is tied together. We have spoken about waste factors, overlaps, cost inputs. Extremely important thing. Okay, you get a quotation from your supplier, and let's just say is $100 a piece, whatever that might be. Okay. Now you have to understand how much you can squeeze your supplier. Right? Can you squeeze him to get to 95? Can you squeeze him to get to 96, 94? Right? What is your margin there? Because there's always going to be a margin. Right? Now you're bidding a job and your supplier sends you a quotation for 100K. Okay, and most likely is going to send the same quotation to your competition as well. Right? But you understand that from your previous experience that I can possibly close this to 95, right? If I get the job. Now you have a buffer of $5,000, right? You can use this to your advantage. What you can do is, and again, this is your call. I'm not saying that you do it. You understand your business better than anybody else. You say, okay, this is a strategic job for me. I'm gonna put $97,000 material cost in there. I'm not gonna put 100K, right? Or you usually mark it up by 10% or 15% on top. Say, okay, I'm gonna take it to 97. Instead of marking it up for 15K, that's the usual industry practice, I'm gonna mark it up by only 10%. Okay. Now, what you have done, you have created a gap between you and your competition, because your competition is probably going to use this exact 100K number. When you get the job, you can go back and you can shop around. Actually, you should shop around, just like GCs shop around, and you go back and say, hey, I got the job, but I think I can only do 92. I cannot do 100, I can only do 92. No, that's too low. Okay, let's agree on 93, 94, right? Never go to 97, right? Because that's your no-go area. But when you're bidding a job, all of a sudden you're doing something that none of your competition is doing, right? You're looking into future, trying to figure out how much I can squeeze this guy and making use of it right now, because if you don't get a job, there is no such thing as squeezing the price. You can't go and negotiate with a subcontractor. So you have to take advantage of it right now. All right. So labor and productivity, wrong assumptions on crew sizes, union, non-union conditions, special conditions. We're talking about winning bids, but at the same time, we need to talk about making money as well. There are many situations where we don't read the fine print and it says, this is a night shift job, right? Or you need traffic control for this, right? Or I don't know, you got to have 5 different inspections done during this course of time, right? That costs money. It's not in your bid, it's not there. Okay, so you need to read the fine prints, and you have to have risk management, scope management, profitability, and review. So they say that 100% of nothing is still nothing, right? And 10% of something is still something, right? So what you got to do is, don't be greedy, right? This is again another strategic decision that you have to make: volume versus big numbers, right? I want to make 100K profit on it. Okay, but if you make 80, you're still gonna survive, you're still gonna make money, but you're gonna throw your competition out. But once you have built that relationship with the GC, then GC is probably going to let you know that, I have a job coming up, a very good job for you, right? Can you do it? And then on that job, you can make your 100K, right? But you don't really need to make 100K on every single job. You should have a decision, say, okay, on this job, I'm going to make 80K, and on this job, I'm going to make 100K. On this particular job, I know that I cannot serve this customer because my crew is busy during this time frame, but I still need to put a number in front of my customer, which means I can possibly go slightly higher on this, right? Because if I get the job, let's go with 120, let's go with 130. If I get the job, right, I will pull some strings and get this thing done, and I will make very good money on it. But at the same time, if I don't get the job, I won't be worried about it because I, bid high on this one. Okay. Document your process, write it down, right? Because we started off by saying that this becomes like a glorified job because I am the owner of the company and I'm doing it myself, right? Which means if you want to build a business and not a job, you need to have processes and you need to have people, right? But before you hire people, you need to have process. So for example, you can build an SOP document, right? So much so that, when I pick up my phone and call the GC and say, hey, Mr. GC, I'm calling from this, I sent you a job, right? When can we get some results, right? Write the script down so that when you hire somebody, maybe your son, maybe somebody from your family, and say, hey, kid, why don't you come in? Here's the script. Here are the 10 different jobs that we've submitted in last 1 week. Read the script, find the answers. These are the questions that you have to ask. Write them down. Write the SOP document, right? Write the checklist, write the procedures, standardize things, standardize it. Because if you can't track something, you cannot measure it. And if you cannot measure it, how can you improve it? How can you improve something? How can you fix something when you don't even know it's broken or not? Right? But you need to find ways to find out, what is working and what is not. And whatever is working for you, double it down. Whatever is not working for you, let it go. Same goes for your people, right? We hire people, but we find it very difficult to fire people. And usually the person that we should have let go months ago and sometimes ages ago is the reason why we are not growing, right? Similarly, let go of your old practices. One thing which I keep hearing in construction industry is, I have been doing this thing for 40 years now. I know what I'm doing. Okay, thank you very much for the experience. We learned from you, but things are changing, right? So you should have an open mind to, learn from whatever is new out there. Okay, one more thing, find out who got the job. Sometimes you're bidding a job and GC doesn't even have the job. So if you have done your first exercise by mapping out all the GCs in your area, now you're bidding a job for a GC and you pick up and say, hey, GC, you got the job? No, we're just bidding it. Okay. All right. Now what you can do is you can call other guys in that area and say, are you bidding this job? Are you bidding this job? Are you bidding this job? And you find out who are the other 4 GCs bidding that job. Now make sure that you submit your numbers to all 5 GCs. I'm 100% confident and none of your competition is doing it. Now all of a sudden you have 5x your estimate of your winning chances, right? Similarly, who got the job from your competition? Say, okay, that person got the job. Call GC and say, hey, what was his winning number, right? Usually they don't give you the number, right? But usually they say, we're 15% too high. Okay, all right. 15% too high means I probably need to go back to my supplier and get better quotation. Maybe I need to look at my overheads and profit margins. But that 15% is extremely important for you because that's one data point in your graph that shows, okay, We lost this one for 15%, this one 10%, this one 5%. All right, we're getting there, right? When we got a job, pick up the phone and say, right, who was the second guy on the list, right? How high they were compared to us, right? They were 15% too high. So you have to find, using this thing, find your sweet spot. There is always going to be a sweet spot. But the truth lies in the data. Right? They say garbage in, garbage out, which means if you don't collect the right information, what's going to happen is going to get bad information out. Okay, right? Another thing, when you know that your competition got that job, which means his crew is probably busy from this time to that time, which means next time when he's bidding a job, he's probably bidding high. So when you know that your market, your direct competition is bidding high, but you need that job, now you don't really need to bid low. Yeah. Otherwise, if you don't have that information that your competition cannot run this job, what you're gonna do? Out of fear, you're gonna reduce your price. Okay, I need this job because if I don't get this one, my crew will be idle and they won't be doing anything. And it's gonna be costing me a lot of money, and then I'm gonna lose good people, right? So okay, I need to go low. But now you know that the other competition guy, he cannot get it because he cannot run it. Why do you need to go low then? No. All right. Now, follow-ups, 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 follow-ups. Call your clients, visit your clients, send them postcards, send them donuts, send them anything. Just show up, keep showing up, keep showing up. Right. It should become their second nature to see you as an electrical contractor of choice, as a concrete contractor of choice, right? So when you see Apple, when someone says Apple, right, usually we don't really think of Apple, the fruit. We think of Apple, the phone, right? Because we have seen this thing so many times that it has become a part of us. Like Apple is the phone, okay? Same should happen for you. When they see you, when they hear your name, when whatever, they relate you with this contractor, they relate you with that contractor. Okay, so I'm just wrapping up how AI can help. You can find leads, Dodge, Bid Clerk. You can automate your emails. So if you are sending follow-up emails, you can set it up in HubSpot, and you can tell HubSpot, and it's a very easy tool. You can tell HubSpot that when I say this job is submitted, send a follow-up email 3 days from after that, right? Whatever, right? And then if I don't receive a response back, and it's actually very drop-down kind of menu. If I don't receive a response back from these guys, send them another email 3 days later, right? So you can create those kind of flow charts, right? You can speed up takeoffs by having takeoff tools. We are trying to build our own takeoff tools as well. Hopefully by this time next year, I'll be presenting a tool to you as well. You can write proposal document using your like ChatGPT. Just dump everything on ChatGPT and tell it that, okay, act like an estimator, all right, and build me a job, a proposal, and enlist all the scope, all the inclusions, all the exclusions, and over the course of time, ChatGPT becomes better and better and better, right? Similarly, you can use AI in many different manners. Like if you have Zoom meetings, you can have a virtual AI assistant in there, right? And it can take notes, it can take minutes of meetings, and it can even send those actionable items to everybody out there. But other than that, there's no one thing, there's not one tool or one platform that fixes all your problems. You got to fix your own problems. But before that, you have to find out what the problems are, right? The whole crux of this meeting, to win more bids, is to understand your business, to understand your local market, to understand your competition, then build human-to-human relationship, and then build workflows that reduce the overall time it takes to build estimates, right? So that you can build more in less time. So any questions, guys? I know that I've taken a long time, but any questions so far? No? Did I do a good job? Or all right. Thank you very much, guys.